Hi guys, this is Mike and this will be a mini review of the Harley Benton custom line CLA-15MCE VS for Vintage Sunburst. That was quite a mouthful. This will also be video number 4 in my series of mini reviews of, Western guitars with a mahogany top or even better, a mahogany body, right? So if you are interested in these types of guitars, definitely subscribe and hit the notification bell. I try to make all of these mini reviews. After that, I'm going to make a couple of comparison videos depending on the body sizes of these guitars. And the last video in this series will be a huge shootout with all 15 guitars included, with a lot of sound comparison samples, with my final, opinion, my final verdict on each and every one of these guitars. Plus, as a special treat, I will also try to rank them from worst to best, right? So you don't want to miss that. There's a new video out every Monday, Mondays with Mike, right? Okay, yeah, so having said that, let's talk about this little instrument here. So of course we have a top that is made out of solid, not laminated, solid okume. Thomann also calls this wood Gabon mahogany, so that's why it's included in the shootout. I found different opinions on the internet if Gabon mahogany, okume, is actually comparable to real mahogany. The matter of the fact is that real mahogany is a rarity these days and it's pretty expensive, so I'm not blaming companies when they try to find other woods that have, similar properties to mahogany and look similar, right? So I'm not blaming them. The back and sides are made out of sapelli. The neck is okume again, and we have a Poe ferro fretboard, right? We have 20 frets. We have a real bone nut. We have a Fishman preamp system, the Fishman Precis 2, I think it's called, with a 2-band EQ. You can, set up the highs and the lows, the bass and the treble. And we have a tuner. The tuner system uses the 2 arrows to show you basically if you're too high or too low. It works, right? It works. It is what it is, and it's nice that it's included. What's not included, by the way, is a gig bag. No gig bag on this purchase. By the way, this is not a sponsored video, right? They don't sponsor me. I'm claiming my honest opinion here. And that's why I also am going to tell you about some things that I don't like. So let's talk about build quality. Out of the box, the build quality seems to be great, right? The binding is nice, right? The joints are nice. It's perfectly rounded, right? There's the frets have almost no resistance. They seem to be rounded, pretty nice, right? The nut joint here, when my camera focuses on that, you'll see in just 5 minutes or something, you'll see that it looks pretty nice. It looks like on a way more expensive instrument. I don't think that we'll see that today. My camera refuses because, of course, my eyes are more interesting. Yeah. Great instrument. You can tell that it's not the highest priced instrument. You can see that the neck joint is actually not that beautiful, right? So here the neck basically ends and the headstock begins. That's the second part of wood that they glued on here. You can see the same thing on this joint here, right? Also, let's look at the Vintage Sunburst. Actually, the same model can be purchased, or the same guitar can be purchased with a natural finish, but I thought maybe the Sunburst will look good. And you know what? It does look good if you don't look too closely. But if you look closer, you'll notice that actually there are a lot of strange things happening here, right? So as you can see, it starts off pretty soft. It gets darker here, right? It gets pretty dark on the bottom. But what is happening here exactly? Here. Look at that part. That's just lazy, right? So we have a little bit of burst basically here. Then there's this huge bright spot here. Then here there's, to be completely honest, I'm not a fan of how the burst looks. On this exemplar, you can clearly see that the workers in the factory wanted to go, to have a lunch break. Didn't pay attention, I guess. Yeah, but of course that takes nothing away from the playability. And let's talk about the playability. So the last guitar that I tested, guitar number 3, was almost the same model, the same specs almost, but it was a parlor-sized guitar. And there I complained that the first 3 frets showed a lot of resistance. They felt very stiff, very hard to play actually. There's none of that on this guitar, right? So that is great. This guitar feels totally natural. What I like on Harley Benton guitars is that they have this percussive quality almost, right? This very honest quality. They translate what you play perfectly into sound, right? If you like the sound or not is a different question, but I like that they have this attack on them, and the same is true here, right? So playability is really nice. Yeah. Also, because it's a little bigger than the last guitar, the parlor-sized guitar, you won't hear as much breakup, you won't hear as much noise when you play chords, right? So that is great as well. So for playability, this guitar would get the top score. For quality of build, maybe 4 out of 5 stars, especially because of that part here, right? Which is botched, I think. Even looking on my monitor here, I can see that the Sunburst is not the greatest. But yeah, let's actually, you know what? Let's actually mic this guitar up and let's check out how it sounds. Here we go. Right, so I hope YouTube doesn't strike my channel, because this sounds very similar to a very popular song. But yeah, that was basically my sound demo. That's what I came up with on the fly. And listen guys, as I mentioned, I really like this guitar. I think it's really nice to play, very easy to play, gives you a lot of expression, right? Sounds very honest. There's actually a nice mix of bass, mids and highs there, right? Nothing is too pronounced, but nothing is too subdued either. So that's pretty cool. I actually really like the weight of this guitar also, the feeling of this guitar, right? And it vibrates, and that's great, right? Yeah, it's just a fun instrument to play. I think you can tell that. And yeah, listen up guys. Please like, subscribe and hit the notification bell, because as I mentioned, there are still 11 more mini reviews to come, then a couple of comparison videos, and after that one big shootout with 15 guitars, right? So you don't want to miss that. A new video is up every Monday. So yeah, stay tuned and have a good one. See you next time. Bye. With 2 eyes.